what we realized over time, over a decade of social media, is that we as humans, created in God's image, long for relationship with one another. The promise of technology in a fallen world is that, hey, I'll replace that longing, that relationship, I'll fulfill that longing, and I can do that through technology. But we realize now that no, technology will not do that. Now, put on AI on top of all of that. I mean, the stated goal for some companies is for you to have a relationship even more so with technology, and it won't no longer be contained to just a device, right? In the future, what does that look like? And so you play it out and you wonder, oh man, wow, what if we really did replace most of our human connections, our relationships in this physical world with a digital companion? And I think there's some major concerns that we should have about that. And so some people would be like, oh, Nick, that is so far-fetched. Like, I'm not going to fall in love with my chatbot. And I would say, don't be so sure. Like, maybe actually consider the possibility of how easy that could become.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Up Next, and I am back again in a different role. Nick Skytland, how are you, Nick?
Doing well, thanks, Tommy.
Yeah. Now, you are now at Gloo. The last time we talked, you were at NASA. What made that transition? When did you know it was time to go?
Well, so I'd actually been at NASA 25 years, and most recently as a chief technologist, overseeing all of our technology and innovation and partnerships. Is pretty cool work, but I've been doing that for 25 years, and I just had an opportunity to kind of exit government and to go to industry and go to really ministry and do a lot of what I was doing in government, but with a different hat, a different context in mind. And so I often tell people what I did at NASA was super good, but sometimes you have to leave something good to go do something great. And that's what 2025 has been.
Yeah, very, very good. And so for you now, you're still based in Houston. Your team is in different. What's your new role at Gloo?
Yeah, so I'm on the AI team, so the Gloo AI team. I'm a vice president. I oversee three major areas. So the developer program, so anybody who's looking to build on top of Gloo AI, our research all around how people are using AI and why that matters, and then also our products. So all the products that we're releasing into the market for the church, for ministries, for organizations, enterprises, anybody wanting to engage with AI via Gloo, I lead that part of the product team.
I got it. And so, Nick, you recently came up with some new research as well, too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, honestly, so we're talking today, and just this morning, just a couple hours ago, we released new research, and you can read about it all online. We have a website at gloo.com/FAI, which stands for Flourishing AI. We'll actually be having a podcast later this week. There's a press release all about it, etc. So what we've done is we spent a lot of time thinking about AI, right? And we want to know how all the best AI models in the world respond to the dimensions of human flourishing. So how we think about flourishing across relationships, purpose, character, finances, happiness, health, and of course, faith. So we looked at the top 20 models from what we call frontier labs. So you can think like OpenAI, Meta, Google. They release models, and we look at them for how they do around human flourishing. And we've done this for a while. We call it just Flourishing AI, but this time around, we looked at it from a particularly Christian context, through the lens of Christian flourishing, from a biblical perspective, right? And so the way we kind of do this is we ask these models a number of questions, both objective and subjective, and then we see how they respond. And does that response align with a biblical worldview? And so we just released all this, and there's a lot of insights that kind of come from it, which I'm happy to talk through. But in general, that's the benchmark work that we do.
Yeah. What are some of the things that you did get from this research that surprised you, or you say, that was a point, but wait, this research really surprised me?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that is using AI can kind of if you come from a Christian worldview, you can kind of tease out that, hey, maybe it doesn't completely align with my values as a Christian, my convictions as a Christian. But sometimes it's hard. And so the example that I give oftentimes is if my son came to me and said, "Hey, Dad, I have $100. Will you teach me to budget it well?" And I said, I can say, "Yes. Here's how to create a budget. Here, track your expenses, know where your money is going, try to manage it well," which is a very safe and accurate answer. But as a Christian on a Sunday in a church in a sermon, you might hear something different, right? You might hear, "Well, hey,
Mm-hmm.
your relationship with money is actually dependent on your relationship with God, and therefore your
Mm-hmm.
actual role is not of an owner; it's His resources. But your job is to steward those resources
Mm-hmm.
well. Your
Mm-hmm.
your whole role changes, your posture with money changes, and therefore we should manage money well. Let me show you how to do that so that we can choose to be generous, that we can give to things that have an impact. And so the whole posture changes, right? And you will never see that Christian worldview unless like very specifically prompted. And even then, so I would argue that the models just avoid theological reasoning altogether. Sometimes if you can force it to do that, but in general, the faith and spirituality parts of those dimensions are the
Yeah.
ones that score the lowest. And really those models struggle with accurately representing Christian worldview, which should not surprise anybody. They're not trained on the Bible. They're trained on data from the internet, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
bias that is built into the models is a secular bias. And so it avoids purposely explicit Christian claims. And so that's interesting, right? Like we should be aware of that when we're using AI. And the reason we should be aware of it is because people are no longer using AI just for a math test or a cooking recipe. They're using it for questions about purpose and about
Mm-hmm.
relationships and about theology and morality and ethics. And those things are really grounded in what you believe.
Yeah. So knowing, I know all of this research is new. Knowing now this research is what you came up with, does that then allow you to pick and choose some of the open AI, the meta AI, and say, hey, look, create a platform using this idea of flourishing, or do you have to build a whole new system that thinks like this?
Well, it's a really good question. Probably depends a little bit on what you're doing, right? I would argue the first step, it starts with being aware of how you use AI. What are you
Mm-hmm.
using it for? If you're using it for generating a recipe or a really cool meme,
Yeah.
an image, like Gemini Nano Banana is awesome at image generation. You don't necessarily need a Jesus bumper sticker image generator. But when you're asking it questions around, things that might come up on in a small group setting or a pastoral setting or any of those things, then I think you would want to be aware of that. And so Gloo's in the business of serving the faith ecosystem by building technology that you can trust. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe the local church doesn't know so much about AIs and large language models and how to do all of this. They just want to use something that they can trust in their context. That's what we provide. But you can build with a number of the things that are out there. Just again, it depends on what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with the Glue Test Kitchen, are you constantly tinkering with different ideas with the team, or are you out there and say, okay, guys, whoever his ideas, submit it and we will see if we want to work with you guys on it? How does that work?
Well, we're constantly looking. We're in the business of innovation, right? So we're constantly looking at the best ideas out there. One of our big things that we do every year is a hackathon. It's kind of where we bring the
Mm-hmm.
entire
Mm-hmm.
developer community together in person in Boulder. It's awesome. We had 700 people participate this year, and we get to see some of the best innovation that's happening in the space right there. And then we actually award quite a bit of money for the best ideas. We actually gave away $250,000 this year. And it wasn't even just developers who were awarded prizes. We had a gaming track this year. So we gave, I think it was $25,000 for the best game, which was really interesting to see how people are innovating in that part of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
technology space.
And then is the goal that a lot of times, hey, look, Glue, as we invest in you guys, we own a certain percentage. And through all this stuff, we're able to make money and continue to fund other Christian gospel initiatives, technology platforms, all of that.
Not in the case of the hackathon. The hackathon actually comes with no strings attached. We
Mm-hmm.
want to just serve the faith ecosystem and raise up a generation of technologists that are building with redemptive mindset with a redemptive mindset. And so though, of course, Gloo is in the business of a lot of this innovation itself. So we are constantly looking for awesome talent, awesome
Mhm.
ideas, awesome businesses. And Gloo is actually a holding company with a number of investments in other companies as well.
Yeah.
So there's been some teams that have showed up at the hackathon that were like, man, we would love to do more work with you. What does that look like? So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the reason I asked you all this, Nick, is we
Yeah.
live in a world before it was the global church, and we send out missionaries and they send support letters, and we write support letters, we send it out to them. Now the world has become so smaller, and I find with especially with some of these younger leaders, they want to create revenue generating products that fund gospel activities in Africa, in Asia, in different parts of the world. And now you're able to work with teams from different parts of the world.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think we have to rethink service and ministry and business, all of it. Like, I don't need to be a Christian on a Sunday and a technologist on a Wednesday. Like, I don't need to be a missionary on a Saturday and an employee on a Monday. I think we live in a world and we serve a God that is creative. And he's like, hey, man, go live for me in all parts of your life. And so I think there's some really brilliant people out there that maybe could start a business and have a thriving business and use that capital to go invest in missions. I think that's totally on the table of possibility. And I would argue, I think that you would have maybe even a bigger impact in that way if you can use your talent to raise up treasure that you deploy in other places. Like, why do we not want to do that? I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Nick, was the transition from NASA to Glue, was it tough for you? I mean, what were some of the learning lessons, things that you said, never thought about this in this world? What were some of the adjustments that you had to make?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm still a technologist, right? So I've that part of who I am remains true, which is pretty amazing. And I did a lot of work outside NASA before I even left NASA, in the parachurch, in the local church, in the ministry context, because I was always wondering why we couldn't apply some of this amazing innovation we were doing at NASA and other places to the church, as an example. So that part remains true. I will say the difference is I worked at a large government agency, and there's a certain culture and a way of doing things in a large government agency that's different than industry, that's different than a startup world. So I am learning a ton and having a lot of fun uh, working in a startup environment. And also Gloo as a company just IPO'd. We were just listed on the NASDAQ about a month ago. So that has been an amazing journey, taking a startup and going through a public offering process. Was an incredible learning process. So man, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for the opportunity just to continue to learn, to do cool things, and to continue to be a technologist and all of it. When I was leaving NASA, I kind of looked across the landscape of all the technology just fields that were taking off, everything from nuclear fusion to robotics to quantum to AI and everything in between. And I was like, man, if I was to go do something right now to have an impact right now, where would it be? And it was AI. I mean, AI is,
Mhm.
just becoming a part of everybody's lives
Mhm,
faster than
mhm.
most people realize it. And so I wanted to be a part of that adventure. And you often hear that the AI industry is moving at light speed, and it's true.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so, Nick, a lot of times here you are now working at Glue. How does that look like even in church environment? What do you find yourself even as some people are sitting there? Okay, you're doing all these great things at work and all that stuff. What does your pastor know what to do with you at church?
It's funny, when I used to go to into my church context, everybody would want to talk about NASA and space travel and human space exploration. And now when I go to church, everybody wants to talk about AI.
Hmm.
So I actually teach in my local church. Actually, I teach a number of classes, everything from a parenting class and a fatherhood class to systematic theology. And I love doing that because sometimes it just gives us a different thing to talk about
Hmm.
than
Hmm.
what I do every single day. But I think people are
Yeah,
fascinated by technology, right? People are
yeah, yeah.
fascinated by the theology of technology and our responsibility as a Christian, and how do we raise our kids in this context of an increasingly digital world. That's what we talked about last time, Tommy, is like
Hmm.
this digital world in the mission field in this digital world. That's never been more true than it is right now. So people want to talk about that no matter if I'm at the grocery store, at church, at work, on a podcast. That's what we talk about, because I think it is, people are wrestling with what this looks like. is technology good or bad? It's a common question, and people don't necessarily have a great answer for it. And I always just remind them it's like a hammer. A hammer can break a window, it can build a house, but it's the heart of the person using the hammer that is what's going to impact the world one way or the other. And so we want to raise up people who have a heart posture that is wanting to make a difference in the world and to put technology in their hands or let them create the technology and then go have an impact.
Yeah, yeah. Or even a lot of times sermon research as well too. You have pastors sitting there researching your sermon. It has helped with people who have never been to Israel before. It has helped with background information, but you could get so dependent on it, you lose the Holy Spirit who's working through, because you could sit there and say, hey, look, I love Tim Keller. Give me a sermon on these passages that Tim Keller would speak on. And there it is, because you've run out of time. But you lose the heart of it. You lose the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. Well, and that other part that you said too, the relationship with our God and the relationship with one another is a thing we don't want to lose. And if you think about the promise of technology, think about social media as an example. Man, I remember when Facebook first came out, I was so excited about being able to connect with people. I was like, this is super cool. Like I could like follow along and connect with classmates that were in high school with me together, and I can see what's going on in their lives. But over time you realize, oh man, I don't really have a real relationship with them. And that doesn't mean you can't. It just means that I can't personally sustain 800 relationships at the level of just being aware of what might be going on in their life from a well-polished social media or Instagram post, right? So I think what we realized over time, over a decade of social media, is that we as humans, created in God's image, long for relationship with one another. The promise of technology in a fallen world is that, hey, I'll replace that longing, that relationship, I'll fulfill that longing, and I can do that through technology. But we realize now that no, technology will not do that. Now, put on AI on top of all of that. I mean, the stated goal for some companies is for you to have a relationship even more so with technology, and it won't no longer be contained to just a device, right? In the future, what does that look like? And so you play it out and you wonder, oh man, wow, what if we really did replace most of our human connections, our relationships in this physical world with a digital companion? And I think there's some major concerns that we should have about that. And so some people would be like, oh, Nick, that is so far-fetched. Like, I'm not going to fall in love with my chatbot. And I would say, don't be so sure. Like, maybe actually consider the possibility of how easy that could become. And again, our role as Christians in this, like, what does that mean for us? I think it means more than ever, the gospel's alive, our mission field is great, and we need to step up and to the ends of the earth, carry the message of redemption.
Yeah, because the sinful side of it is you now have created a chat box that listens to you, doesn't disagree with you, doesn't argue with you, all of those things, and does whatever you say. So now you have instant control over the entire situation that you didn't have it when you're dealing with relationships.
Yeah, I mean, human relationships are hard, right? So, wow, that was really hard. I was just kind of fight with my wife. It's so nice to talk to a chatbot that just tells me how wonderful I am.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to do any work in that relationship. And that's not a good relationship, right? And so we need to be aware of this and be thoughtful in this. And I think the church has a huge opportunity.
Yeah. Nick, a lot of your work, is it still with Gloo and all that other stuff? Is it still within the US, or are you working in different countries around the world?
Yeah, we work around the world. I do a lot of speaking, writing, hackathons, consulting, AI strategy, leadership type workshops, in addition to all the stuff we do at Gloo. And so, yeah, we live in a global world, right? And there's like, for example, we did a really interesting hackathon in the MENA region earlier this year with Faith Tech, our good partners and friends in Faith Tech. That was phenomenal. There's a lot of work continuing with what we started there. That continues on. So yeah, it's around the world.
Yeah, yeah. And then also the last time we talked was with your book. What are you doing with that book now?
Yeah, so the book, What Comes Next, was aimed at helping leaders navigate uncertainty. It actually came out during COVID. So the timing for the content was phenomenal. The timing to launch a book was not. But it doesn't matter. The framework is maybe more true than ever today. And we continue just to do work in that space. I'm actually leading a workshop tomorrow to help an organization, again, think through what comes next and be really intentional and diligent with understanding where they're trying to go, having a vision for that future, and then building a strategic plan to get there. Oh, this is actually really relevant to AI, actually. I'll just say it is so easy for us to believe the negative headlines, right? Like, oh, the world's coming to an end. All the jobs are going to be taken. I'm going to fall in love with my chatbot. Or as a Christian, as a people of hope, with an understanding of the end story anyway, we can show up with a different headline. We could be like, or maybe an alternative to that could be we could live this way. And so that's a lot of the work that I do with the book, is helping people think through alternative futures. Like, we don't just have to accept the way it's going. We actually have an impact by the choices we make and the ripples we create. And so that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now. I'm also thinking a lot lately about the theology of technology, the theology of creation and innovation, and our role in that, as we've talked about. So there might be another book coming down the line at some point too.
Wonderful. No, what do you miss about working for NASA?
I miss more than anything the people of NASA.
Yeah,
it is
truly people you work with.
Oh yeah, I mean it's totally true. I mean, some of the most brilliant, creative people on this planet, and also the mission focus of these people is incredible. And I'm excited about where the future of space exploration is going, particularly human space exploration. I've always had a special appreciation for humans in space. It's a hard challenge, and I think the next 20, 30 years is going to be even more exciting than the past.
Yeah, wonderful. Nick, thank you. I know you have a busy day, so I want to make sure I honor your time and respect your time.
Thank you, Tommy. Nice to talk to you.
We'll talk soon.